like to call the Liberty Elementary School District Governing Board meeting for August 28th, 2023 to order. We had our work session earlier where we did the Pledge of Allegiance. So at this point, I will just ask that we move to item 3.2, which is approve the regular agenda.
Mr. President, I move we approve the regular agenda item consistent with board policy BEDB and temporarily suspend governing board policy with which this agenda may be inconsistent.
Have a motion, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion, a second to approve the agenda. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Aye.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that proof. 5 yes, 0 no. Also, just procedure, if we can let the record reflect that all 5 board members are still present for the meeting. We'll move on now to item 4.1, attendance enrollment reports and school newsletters. Dr. Monroe.
Yeah, President Todd, members of the board. Just a brief update as we do each month. The school newsletters are attached for the board to review. And we have a little update on the enrollment number that's written there. At the next board meeting, we'll have the school-specific enrollment with class sizes that the board is used to seeing each month. As you can see in the descriptor, I just want to highlight in the start of the 21-22 school year, there was 3,951 students. The start of last year, there was 4,617. However, it's important to note that those included the summer withdrawals and they were not completed as of yet, so that number was inflated. So at the 10-day drop item, we were at 4,551 again, which did not include all the summer withdrawals, but did include some. But the school year last year ended at 4,532. So where are we now? As you can see, 4,579. The summer, our goal was to make sure all our students requesting withdrawal were completed during the summer. We tried to make sure we're cleaning up our numbers as soon as possible, as much as we can control. That way we'd have a better idea within the first 10 days of where we are. As of right now, we're down a total of 84 students from where we ended last year. Okay, you can see the end of the year count from last year was 4,532. Our current enrollment is 4,465. However, we have 26 that are pending, meaning we're waiting on a final piece of paperwork or for the parent to come in and finish their registration. And as of right now, our projected enrollment would be 4,495, which would still be down, about 50 students more or less, I think, from about where it was at the end of last year. So again, as time goes on, those numbers become a lot cleaner, and at the next board meeting, we'll have the individual schools, class sizes, all of those, so the board can see those.
Thank you for that. We'll move to item 4.2, our
Can we ask questions?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So, Court, I was wondering, do we have any idea where these kids are going?
We are actually tracking that. I was talking to Dr. Mahorn and John Moreno about that, of when the student withdraws, where the student goes. Having a system to communicate with the families to say, where did they go? Did they have to do something with a 4-day week? Did it have to do something with a voucher? Do they want to do a homeschool? Did they not like their neighborhood school? So I'm hoping to have that data very soon so that we can know why we're down 50 kids.
So we don't have the student records requests of who's requesting those records, the other districts?
Yeah, John, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we do have records on most of the kids that apply for at a different location or out of state, or some that leave the country. You know, we usually don't get any of those requests. We're, like Dr. Monroe said, we are trying to track. A lot of parents email us and say we're withdrawing our student. Sometimes they don't tell us why. And then all of a sudden we'll get a request or we won't. It just depends on the school that they're attending. All in-state schools we usually don't have an issue with. It's some of the out-of-state that we don't get a lot of requests from.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any further questions?
What, is this worrisome that we're seeing a drop in student population?
Yeah, Member Aguirre, I think it was worrisome for me before we cleaned up the numbers a little bit. When we were trying to track down when it looked like we were 200 or 300 down. And now that we're at 50, that's closer to a wash. I did, from being new here and looking at past projections, it looked like we would grow, in my view, 100 kids. But to be down 50, I think time will tell. I don't know whether this 1 point is worrisome. Concern, yes, that we didn't grow, but I think we'll have to see as years stack together what that looks like.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions?
If I could add just one thing, I know, and just for what it's worth, a lot of the school district lost a significant amount of students under the ELA program. I know in my neighborhood alone, 5 out of this school district.
Well, and sometimes, Member Parks, what you consider is, you promote a large group of 8th graders, but you bring in a group
Right.
of kindergartners that is 50 down. And I will tell you, speaking to surrounding superintendents, districts are down. And I was part of a state demographer presentation a while back, and the highest birth rates in Arizona are basically going down. We had like our highest graduation rate throughout the state the last few years. And so it's really interesting, but I will say other surrounding superintendents aren't reporting spikes and growing 300 or 400 kids. And so there's some concern there, but I think I'd be a lot more concerned, Member Aguirre, if we stick together more years and we don't grow.
Thank you.
Well, I just asked the question because this is the first year that I've seen our numbers down. 6 years.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if we can get data, sometimes parents don't want to tell us. If we have that data that we know if they're out of state or they're going to a new district, the empowerment scholarship is a huge elephant in the room with regards to public schools. Parents can receive money to tuition their student into a private school. So there's a lot of variables, and I'd really like to have a system where we know why people are choosing to withdraw from our schools. And the 4-day week.
Sorry,
Is
I
the
meant
4-day week
I meant the
making an
ESA
implication?
program. I misspoke, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Dr. Monroe, is it possible to get from the state a listing of the people who live in our district that have applied for the ESA?
Member Bixler, from what I know, and I could be mistaken, from what I know, you can track it by zip code. You can track by zip code how many students have or parents have applied for a empowerment scholarship worth $7,000. So the best we could do would probably be to ask the state the zip codes we have or we share, and what would be the percentage, how many would be taken out. That's the best measurement that I know at this time.
Any further questions? Okay, we'll now move to item 4.2, the technology presentation. Mr. John Moreno.
Come on up, Mr. Moreno. So President Todd and members of the board, this is the first presentation that we're bringing to you this school year. We'll have the departments present for about 10 or 15 minutes, real succinctly, higher level, some of their successes, the things they're working on, a little bit of data, and the board can ask questions. Mr. Moreno's kind of the guinea pig with technology. And then after some of our departments, our schools will go. So I appreciate John being willing to be the guinea pig, and I'll turn the time over to him.
All right, Dr. Monroe, Mr. Todd, members of the board. Just wanted to share some items with you that we've been working on in technology over the last few years. This is going to be the first year. Well, we haven't had a lot of integration going on, changes or new buildings or a lot of things. So it was really a nice, calm year for us, if I can believe it, if my team believes me. No, they don't believe me. All right, well, the first thing I want to do is ask you this question. Where was technology when you were in school?
Just this side, slate.
Oh, why is everybody laughing all of a sudden? All right, just take a quick moment to think. I might ask you in a minute. But I remember when I was going, we had typewriters. That was the closest thing to technology we had when I was there. So looking at where we are today from my perspective is completely different. Anybody want to volunteer anything else? Any Tandys or Ataris or?
Sure, I can go way back.
All right.
I started with a mimeograph, which had an associated benefit because once you've done running all the papers, you can hold it to your nose and really get a good snort off of it. So, but yeah, I go all the way back to mimeograph. And I can tell you, in my teaching experience, the biggest change as far as my instruction was the advent of the plain paper copier. When I could put stuff into kids' hands, it made a huge difference in how I taught. I think interactive whiteboards are doing the same thing here.
Yeah. Great. So think about, the things that we had compared to the things that our kids have today. Really, night and day, right? And, hopefully some of us are going to be around to see some of that transition for when our kids are in the same positions we're in and see what kind of technology is available for them at that time. But a lot of this and all of this is really thanks to everything that you guys do and provide us the opportunity to provide it for students. All right. We have been very blessed to have cybersecurity awareness has been going on for years now, right? We had applied for some scholarships. We were given that grant, and we have done some work in that area to strengthen the security. Well, part of that was we had a network penetration test that was done on the entire network, both internally and externally, by the Homeland Security Department. And Lieutenant Colonel King and his crew were the ones that came in and did that work to see how our network was. And you always get a little nervous when that happens because you're not sure, have I plugged every hole? Have I done everything that I can? And all you can do is really, lie back on your skill and hope that you've done everything. Well, after we went through that process, we got a fantastic review, and that's to the team that I have behind me. We had very low issues arise that were part of the penetration test, which goes to just show you that maintaining patches and doing all the things that these guys do keeps these items to a minimum, right? And that's how, not to say that you could never get hacked into, but you want to, by doing all these things, it allows you to make sure that you try and keep it at bay for as long as possible. So it's been, again, a great thing for our district to have done. And the biggest thing is, I think for myself and my team is to be fully staffed for the first time since I've been here. We have a new position that was added last year. So again, thanks to you guys, and we're dedicating that position to the security side of things to make sure that we continue to move forward and stay secure in that environment. All right. One of the things, as you guys know, we've been talking about for quite some time was the additional cameras and all the storage space. So we've added nearly 250 additional cameras. And if you ask the principals behind me, I still think we got blind spots. Yeah, there you go. That's what I thought. But we're doing as much as we can to make sure we get all these areas covered, both inside and outside, to make sure students and staff are protected. One of the other big migrations that we're doing is Versatrans, which is our bus operating software. We went from a hosted environment to a completely cloud-based environment. And we have actually moved to tablets on board the buses, which we will start integrating that here soon. So as the bus riders get on with their badges, it scans them getting on and it scans them getting off. And then parents will be able to know where their child got on and off the bus. So if they get off at their friend's house, you'll know that, right? So very cool system that we've been able to implement. It's been around for years. It's not anything new, but it's new to us, and we're looking forward to implementing that fully. The other thing is security and card access. Just maintaining the security in the building. By using card access control, they're able to hit one button and engage all doors during a lockdown procedure. So we're trying to migrate all of the campuses to that environment as well. And just getting everything standard so we're not, we don't have 5 different security systems on 7 campuses. It makes it real difficult to manage that. All right, some of the goals for this year, just to increase parent view usage. We have a pretty good, our goal initially was 1 household per family, which we were able to get the number pretty high, but now we're going to extend that to getting, both parents utilizing parent view so that they have access to their child's data and information at any time. The other part is continuing to push the security side and maintain high levels of security and access for our staff, because if we don't continue to monitor ourselves and get better, that's when you can't become complacent in what you're doing. All right, as Dr. Monroe said, going back a little ways, 2018, when I arrived, we were about 3,100 students. And then when I made this slide, we were at 4,566. But that's the one thing about data, is that it's so fluid with students moving in and out, that's what we're faced with at times. So that number will always be ever changing for us, and we'll make sure we get that information to you. When I first got here, we were 6-8 with Chromebooks, and now we are 1-to-1 district-wide K-8. So utilizing that, the kids know how to use it. In fact, they're training some of our staff at times, because kids aren't afraid of it. It's the adults that get afraid of it. But anyway, that's pretty good, I think, credit to what you guys have moved us forward with, because without you approving the money, we don't have 1-to-1 here. And you know what? Back to this. Without the parents and the voters in this district, we don't have this either. So that's one thing we need to always remember too, that we don't want to go back to, was it a mimeograph? We don't want to go back to that. So if we can stay at least where we are now, we'll be better. And these are just some of the tools that that we use currently. Students, there's a student badge image that's not one of our kids, unless that's Sampolina Sampleton. Say that fast 3 times. And then we have, again, we're going to be migrating to a Raptor check-in for visitors and volunteers. And those are just some of the other tools that we use in the district. And then there's some of the little machines that use technology on a daily basis for us. All right, our next steps, just like I said, continue to tune ourselves, continue to train ourselves to what's going on in the sector of technology. Just because we're in education doesn't mean we don't need the same things that big organizations do. So we will continue to do that. We will continue to build standards across the board so that everybody on my team can support anybody at any time. And, just again, like I said about card access, being able to get systems all locked down and in place, and staff being able to walk on campus when they need to and be able to get into the facility when it's secured. All right, next steps to synergy. The cleaner the data is, the better we are when we push to all the programs that Natasha and Ed Services use. So that starts with the parent, then to our registrars, and then to Mindy and I are constantly going over data and looking at it and making sure it's as clean as can be, not all uppercase, not all lowercase. And so just continuing to make those changes and then improve all of our data pushes so that they're fast and efficient. Right now that we do a pretty good job of it, but we always want to get better at what we're doing. All right, any questions for me?
I've got Mr. President, I have one.
Please proceed.
Actually, a couple. The badges in the buses in that program, actually kind of, my ears stood up a little bit on that. Are we actually using RFID?
Yes.
When did that get implemented?
This is our second year.
And so that's throughout, that all the kids' badges have RFID?
Yes.
Okay. How come I don't know about this? Curious? I'm having parents ask me about this, and I knew nothing about it. Here's the deal. We need to have full disclosure and transparency of what data we're using and what we're not using and where it's going. That needs to be on the district website.
Yeah, I don't, Member Parks, I don't know the answer to that, but we can certainly make sure we're communicating out if something has been missed on the RFID or what parents
Yeah, we have
need
to be
know.
very careful if we got any sort of information we're using tracking kids, and otherwise parents need to know exactly what we're doing with that.
Yes, of course.
That's it. Thank you.
Yeah, John, I have a question too. I know that a number of your team went to a conference last year and so on. Is there anything coming out of that we need to know of? Because sometimes those conferences kind of give you a heads up of what's coming down the pipe. Anything we need to be aware of?
Yeah, one of the things that we're looking at out of the synergy piece is that's the conference we attended, is their lottery piece, which is similar to what we do with open enrollment. So right now, instead of having open enrollment done through a Google Sheet that somebody monitors, we'll have it entered into Synergy, and then it still gets managed the same way by Natasha's department. And then all the data is already entered into Synergy, so we don't have to wait for the parents to re-enter that information. And then we're continuing to look, they're always evolving that product. So we're looking at varying options for different departments and utilizing that.
Yeah, I like the card entrance and exit on the buses. That fielding those questions of where's my child? Why hasn't my child gotten home yet? And the child got off at the wrong bus stop because they went to a friend's house. That's, boy, wonderful. Thank you for putting that in place.
Yeah.
I just had a question, Mr. Moreno. You had mentioned about the locking down the school systems and for security reasons. And I notice it looks like it's only for the new schools that we have built so far, which is Las Brisas, Liberty, and then of course Blue Horizons. Is there any federal grant money out there to be had to help us implement the other schools?
Yeah, we're always looking for those opportunities. We've already also started using some of the funds that we've had available from some of the bond money that we've had and implemented at all the other schools in the gymnasium and in the front offices. So we're continuing to expand out, but we'll continue to look for opportunities with funds to get that system expanded out.
The reason why I ask is I feel that I've seen somewhere, I've read somewhere at the federal level about there being money for security purposes in public education. And that's what I didn't know, if that is something that was broke out from an original federal budget or if it's all lumped in. So that's why I
We
wonder.
can take a look at it.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Okay.
Yeah, for sure.
I don't have any questions other than say thank you to your team. You guys are doing an excellent job, so thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Moreno, thank you. I just had a couple questions. One, when we look at access points, we went to a campus this week for a meeting and we discovered that extensions were still logging in former employees. Do we need to look at like a program or somebody where we could integrate if we have an employee leave? For example, there was a code that is used for the superintendent to log in, and when our superintendent now logged in, it popped up with a former superintendent's name. So we didn't have an accurate tracking of who was truly on our campus, and it's obviously flagging the wrong person or background checking, instantaneously the wrong person. So for the board's future, should we look at budgeting some sort of a program or where this is integrated? Because the same thing was happening with the phones when we had some changes. Three months later, it was still ringing somebody else's number. And from a security standpoint, especially for access, we shouldn't have a default number, perhaps, that logs in a former employee. So is that a programming issue that we should look at as we get bigger? I realize we have a lot of people changing. That's going to happen as we continue to grow as a district. People will come, people will go. But we want to make sure that our security is truly accurate. And we also want to be looking if there's some of that is also just if there's a fire, we want to be able to pull that and say who else is on campus. Because if we've accounted for everybody that's supposed to be there, but there's 3 parents or 3 administrators who are visiting, and we don't know they're on the campus, or we're looking for a female when it was a a male superintendent now, that causes me a little concern. So I just want to know if you can please tell us what we need to do to help you to
So,
work through that.
so we are, the funny thing was the timing of everything. We're running a product called School Pass, and School Pass was purchased by Raptor. And we were in the process of looking at a new product just for that very reason. It wasn't updating the way that we were sold on the product. So now that we're in the middle of a Raptor conversion, we're taking a look and making sure that those things will happen.
Perfect.
Right now, we were using standard desktop phone numbers, which makes it easy for the person, but from a security standpoint, it makes it a little open per se.
Well,
So
that's kind of what happened. I just didn't want to give
Yeah.
the whole password out.
no,
but
we
done
will
it now.
work on getting that all locked down and cleaned up for
All
sure.
right. Thank you very much. And
Thank
thank
you.
you for what you guys do. Your staff stays late for these meetings to make our folks at home who want to see it on television there. So I know it's been some late nights, but thank you for all you do.
Thank you, guys.
Okay, next up will be item 4.3, the professional development plan for fiscal year 23-24. Looks like it'll be presented by Ms. Camp and Ms. Erica Daniel.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good evening, Mr. President, members of the governing board. Tonight, Ms. Daniel and I will be sharing with you the 23-24 school year professional development plan for the district. She's going to be my Vanna, so click. Okay. Based on our analysis of the district-wide data that you all dug into for one data set, this summer at our Leadership Academy, these goals were collectively established, goals both in ELA and then a goal in math. The site leadership then worked with their teachers to set their grade level goals connected to our district goals, and we intentionally align our work to meeting or exceeding our academic goals, including the work of professional development. So based on our goals, we developed a theory of action for our professional development plan. If teachers receive differentiated, and I want to explain that word just a little bit. So by differentiated, we're really talking about specific content and grade level, high quality professional development that supports new learning and supports planning for instruction, then all Liberty Elementary District students will receive high quality instruction and achieve at high levels of performance on classroom, district, and state assessments. Some of the systems that we put in place directly align also to meeting those goals, and I'll explain those here on the slide. So we are systematically building the capacity of our stakeholders to ensure that our work is aligned in reaching our academic goals. We do that through instructional teams, which is comprised of our administrators, both the principal and assistant principal, our instructional coaches, and then our learning acceleration specialists, as well as the educational services team. They meet bi-monthly, so 2 times a month, and we are learning the content and the strategies to support the implementation of math and ELA professional development, as well as science and history, social science. Another system that we have in place are our instructional coaches. Our instructional coaches meet to also further develop their content knowledge, and then also working on our strategies of student-centered coaching, really partnering the coach and the classroom teacher in analyzing classroom level data, co-planning, co-teaching lessons, all in order to increase student achievement. So we want our coaches side by side with our classroom teachers, and they're setting a goal of how are we going to improve student level performance for this particular standard. I'm going to be right here with you, and we're going to measure it in the moment in real time. And then finally, professional development. I'll call this more formalized professional development in a training or a workshop manner that we offer every month, one Friday each month. Our teachers are provided professional development aligned to their grade level band and also their content, with a really heavy emphasis this year on the 3 primary adoptions: math, science, and history, social science. Thank you. Here's what the PD cycle looks like this year. So you'll see at the top, we have our monthly trainings. We also have our instructional teams. They're being trained monthly as well. The training is provided monthly to all of our stakeholders, again, focused on building content, knowledge, and pedagogy. Pedagogy is the instructional strategies that are being used in the classroom, okay? And then our collaborative teams, they are working together to analyze student level evidence of learning, like you did with us today. Also to plan high quality instructional lessons, create assessments to measure student success. That is followed by implementation of what they are learning in the workshops and what they plan for in their collaborative teams. And then site level support, differentiated over there by student-centered coaching and co-teaching. So one of the things that we've embedded this year, because only have one Friday per month, we really wanted to center on job embedded professional development. How can we still support our teachers while they're in the classroom? So we are now pushing into them. And we're doing that through a co-teaching session. That consists of grade level, vertical, or content teams co-planning a lesson for one teacher to deliver that lesson with a consultant or a coordinator or a coach or an administrator. And then the other teachers are observing that lesson, and they are all being provided with feedback of what went well, what do we need to refine. If you have heard of this before, it's actually called lesson study. Okay, and so we are doing that now as job embedded professional development for our teachers.
Okay, so for our K-8 math and 6-8 science teachers, plan workshops and or training sessions aligned to these overarching outcomes. The same is true for our sessions centered around history and social science and English language arts. Planned workshops and training sessions aligned to these overarching outcomes. However, focusing on deepening our content knowledge and building up our pedagogy knowledge will not produce impact on student achievement if we do not administer assessments and respond to student data. By analyzing and responding to student data, we ensure we are teaching at the correct level of difficulty and we measure mastery. Therefore, another outcome for all our teachers, for all our subgroups, is using assessments to guide and monitor and adjust instruction and instructional groupings to make sure that we are meeting the needs of all our students. This is an example of our PD schedule. So at the top, what you're gonna see when you see reading intervention is K2, which is just ELA teachers only, 3-5 with ELA dual language teachers and departmentalized teachers, math 6-8, science 6-8. Those are all the subgroups that we are differentiating our PD for to meet their needs within that grade level band aligned to the content that they teach daily. There is, however, like we said, a big emphasis on mathematics. All teachers that teach math go to the math PD once a month. Questions?
Members, any questions?
I have more of a comment. I really like the idea of getting that job embedded PD time. That sounds like a great idea, and I hope to hear some good feedback from the teachers later.
Yeah, along the same lines. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, I'll continue. I thought the same thing. I'd be curious to see some feedback from the new teachers because they're new. And so it's always great to go study something, to do some role playing, but to do it for real. So I think that's going to really help as we continue to see younger teachers come into the profession or start with us. And we hope they stay. I hope future boards get to talk about the older teachers that are with our district because that means we're retaining. But I think that is important. My only other question that I had is with PD, I'd be very curious to know how much professional development we did last year for gifted teachers and what the plan is this year because they fall into a different role. And I'm not speaking just of MAG, but all of our gifted cluster teachers, and that's a unique situation that they're in. So are we doing anything?
I'll respond to that. So what we have found is that there are some subgroups that we are having to utilize non-working Fridays to be able to pay them off contract work to attend additional needed professional development. And so currently, like I just spoke with you all about in the update from Gifted and also MAG, we're working on establishing a cohort that's ready to move forward for provisional and then full endorsement. And even if they don't want to get their provisional endorsement, they can still attend, and we're going to encourage them to attend any of those trainings, and we will pay them to attend off contract professional development.
So I guess I'm confused because I thought that we decided to go to 1 day of PD and that there was a lot of complaints coming out of the gifted program as to why we needed to go to 1 day, that teachers were getting burnt out. Now it sounds like that program wants more than 1 day of PD.
I don't know that they want more than 1 day, but they are seeking any external or other modes of professional development because a majority of our cluster teachers are needing to attend the math professional development for the new adoption this year and also additional professional development. So, I think this is a year for us to take into consideration what's working and what's potentially not working in order to adjust moving forward. Totally in uncharted waters with our 4-day week and with the 1 professional development Friday a month. I do think that this board is interested in listening to stakeholders of teachers and other constituents. If it's not working, I think you all want to know about that.
Right. Just to clarify, I'm not sure we heard from a gifted group of teachers that they didn't want 4-day. I think that statement's a little off the mark. We heard from several teachers that they didn't want more than 1 day a week. But I don't know that a group of gifted teachers approached this board specifically with that. We heard many teachers from, to quite honest, that were not gifted that also were interested in one professional development day. But with that, I think they're having to go outside because as it sounds like we aren't doing any professional development in-house for gifted. So if we're not diversifying our professional development and we're not creating tracks, then our district is what's forcing those teachers to go out. And kudos to them for asking for more and going out on their own time to get that.
Mr. President, I'd like to, just one comment. Slide 5, I thought, had something on there worth seeing. Especially on the right-hand side, it talks about what we're going to do, collaborative teams and so on. The very last question under collaborative teams, I think, talks to exactly what President Michael was talking about. If we continue to ask the question, what if they already know it? What are we going to do? I think that will take care of that, especially if we come up with a good answer.
Any further questions? Thank you. Our next item on the agenda is 5.1, governing board updates. Mr. Parks, we'll start down there with you.
I just want to say we had a nice time this morning in the transportation department and seeing everybody over there. And that's a nice group of people we have and very dedicated. anyway, make sure I thank everybody that gets our kids to and from school.
Yeah, I have a couple of things. I also was part of the gifted forum. I found it very informative. I really appreciate the parents that took the time to come out and talk and share with us how they felt about the program, areas that we are doing well and areas that we could build on. And it was great to have those people there and to get their input. Fabulous. Ms. Camp, thank you for making that a possibility. That worked well. I learned a lot there. Other event, the transportation celebration, was also this morning. Wonderful, great donuts, and you're correct. It's a great group of people over there. They really are. And when they have such an important job, they're the first thing that most of our kids see as far as school on that day. And a child's whole day could be determined by exactly what happens when they first enter that bus. So their job could not be more important. Not only is it something about safety, but it's also about setting the tone for the day. And they look like they're good people to do that over there. The last thing I want to talk about really wasn't anything to do with the school. I had attended an event on Saturday, and a student there had recognized me and asked if I was indeed on the board, and then entered into a conversation with me about it, about her feelings of being on our campus and so on. Turns out she's an 8th grade child at Estrella Mountain, and she was exceptionally complimentary, not only on Estrella Mountain itself and the instruction she's received over the years that she has been there, but she also really, really appreciated Mrs. Boris and what she does for the campus. So I just want Estrella Mountain to know that you got somebody out there that's a real fan. So thank you for doing what you do.
I have a couple things I'd like to just speak about real quickly. I was also at the transportation celebration and just so thankful to our bus drivers and everybody who goes into transportation. I think Board Member Bixler put it exactly right. I mean, I can remember days when my whole day was set by what happened on the bus to or from school, and just that was my parent would say, "What did you learn today?" And all I talked about was what happened on the bus. Right? So thank you so much. And it was very good to get to meet a lot of them who I haven't met prior, and just a great time. Secondly, I also want to thank administration for setting up the study session right before this, and it was very informative and very helpful, so I appreciate that. I do want to talk real quick about the board update that we got and just kind of highlight something that there was on there where it looks like Mr. Todd spent a lot of time researching and trying to make contacts. We have discussed in the previous board meetings about the transportation facility and that infamous fuel storage tank down there, about the accruing fees that are happening. It looks like that's not the case, and actually it looks like that, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like there's possibly some actual grant money that might be available to help us get that out of the ground when we need to. So I just want to thank President Todd for that and spending time and doing that. And I know he's down here a lot working on a lot of this stuff behind the scenes, so thank you. Last thing I want to just mention, I received a email that my heart really goes out to Mr. Scott Anderson over at West Star. He's been there a long time. He's a custodian. His wife passed away, and just I want to give my condolences to him and his family. And Liberty, this district, we might be a smaller district out here, but we are really like a family, and I really do mean that. And so I just want to leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kenyon. Just a couple things, and going last, a few repeats, but a couple new things as well. I had the opportunity to attend basically a study group. Ms. Camp, help me out the name for the 4-day. 4-day monitoring. It's a mouthful. The 4-day monitoring study group, Natasha's, Ms. Camp's group, to look at the 4-day and what the dynamics of that are. What are we including everybody? Are we missing anything? What's working? What's not working? What might work now and might work in the future? I think it's very open. Dr. Sloat is also helping with that and digging into some data, which data can do a lot of things, but I think in this case it's really important. We're looking at how do we talk to students. What I thought was super cool about this group was we had students on the committee, and it was great to see the students interacting with the parents. In fact, a couple of times I think the students won. Parents, you're gonna have to brush it up a little bit, but we'd have a parent say something, a student would jump right on very professionally and say, well, actually, let me tell you how it is. It's very beneficial, and it was great to observe that. For the staff that attended, we had every campus there. We had special ed representation, gifted representation. I think we identified a couple more that we want to reach out to, the counselors and so forth. So I think it's pretty safe to say if you were missed in that and you have interest, reach out to Ms. Camp and see how you could participate in that if you think you haven't had a voice in it. The district administration as a whole is very, very committed to hearing from everyone about the 4-day week. Quite honestly, a couple people came up and said, well, what does the data say? Well, the data doesn't say very much because it's new. We're on the cutting edge, the leading edge. Sometimes that can be good. If you're on the leading edge of an airplane wing and there's a bird flying by, that might not always be so good. So we're there. We're on the leading edge. We want to do right by our students 100%. We have some great encouragement this year. We heard from teachers the 4-day week is what helped us fill our classroom. So I keep coming back to a 4-day week full of great teachers or a 5-day week without as many teachers. There's a balance. But so I think this group is going to meet monthly, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right? Quarterly, monthly? Whatever it is, we'll update it. But
We're going to meet one more time to develop the monitoring tool, and then we will begin monitoring.
So with that, I think we're going to have some great feedback over this year, and it was seemed to be a balanced committee. I also got to attend the stakeholders meeting for gifted education. Originally, that was going to be just online, but we did open that up to have it in person. The room was relatively full, so for the parents who took time out of their day, both online and in person, great, valuable information. Board Member Bixler was also there, and I think we heard loud and clear. There was no mistake in my mind, the feedback from the parents. So we're going to, I think, collectively work on addressing those issues, I have no doubt. Our transportation day today was just a really fun time. We don't get to see the bus drivers. Most of us are still asleep when those guys are coming to work, and I mean it because I've taken a few airport trips in the wintertime, and it's dark and it's cold, and the buses are out there pulling out. So thank you for all that they do. We talk about that bus ride, and let me tell you, to Board Members Kenyon point, our day starts on the bus. For a lot of our students, our day really does start on the bus, and so it was great. I thought it was really cool. They had a little teamwork over there. They have a trivia question of the day. Today was chartreuse as a color between yellow and... So a few board members cheated and asked what the answer was. I won't mention names, Mr. Kenyon, but it was a great time. I did see on some social media this week, and I would like to learn a little bit more about it, but we had some students from West Star take a trip down to the Secretary of State's office, and one of our students was named the Assistant Secretary of State for the day, entered into official state documents sealed by the Secretary of State. I saw it on the Secretary of State's social media page, and I think what a great thing. So maybe we could ask the students that did that to come to a board meeting and tell us about it, because that's, again, something really cool to be down learning about government. And hopefully they'll be ready in a few years to take over these seats, because we'll be ready to move on, I'm sure. But congratulations to the students that did that. His name was Amir, and just kind of was a surprise as I saw on social media that going on. Aside from that, again, I wanted to thank the staff for putting together the study session. That's something as a board member that I've always wanted. I think there's a lot of value in us sitting down round table and just kind of throwing out ideas and talking. So I know that's extra work for staff, but know that your work is certainly leading us to better decisions. So appreciate that. And again, board member Kenyon spoke of it already, but to Mr. Scott Anderson over at West Star, my heart goes out to you, and we're all thinking about you. So next will be 6.1. Guidance for public comment. We have 2 requests for public comment. You're limited to 3 minutes. Please respect that time. You'll have a timer on the board. And if IT has it set right, we'll get 3 minutes, which they usually are pretty good at that. They'll give you a little buzzer. Our first up will be Miss Kelly Zimmerman.
I apologize. I'm going to speak off the cusp tonight. So if I'm a little more scattered than I normally am, I hope you'll forgive me for that. But as I sat and listened to the study session tonight, it's been a common theme that this district for the last 5 years, as I've been involved, is heavily focused on gifted. And I'm not saying that gifted is not important, but there are other subgroups in this district that need to be addressed. And that is special education. These students are at risk for multiple things. And the fact that there is never discussion about what they need, there's never been a parent forum. I don't even barely hear them mentioned. And let me tell you that, like, I could bring lots of things to the board. I choose not to. I choose to follow the chain of command and have worked through lots of things over the last 18 months. But the amount of time that I am seeing this board spend on gifted education, which is 3% of our students, is not fair to the 97% of students. And then we'll take that subset group out of 15% of special education students. They deserve our time. They deserve our attention, and their parents certainly deserve a voice as well. Because let me tell you, being a parent of a special education student is not easy. Nothing is given to you. You have to advocate for every little thing. And I will continue to do that. But other parents don't have the skills that I have, and they deserve a voice. And they should have the opportunity to meet with other parents as well. And I would really like to see that as a priority. You know, we're talking about a position that I've seen advertised multiple times all over the district Facebook page. But we're talking about hiring a virtual OT. Are you kidding? A virtual OT for our special education students? My son is going to have a virtual speech teacher. Why are those positions not being posted all over the district Facebook page? They deserve a priority. They deserve the very best education that this district can offer them. And a virtual OT is not okay. Let's see. You know, we have the 4-day week. That has greatly going to affect special education students. And again, you know, students were not at the forefront of the decision of the 4-day week. And we need to really be looking at that subset as well. And since I got so upset, if I'm being honest, I will just add that, you know, there's been a lot of talk about transparency, and yet this district is not fulfilling public records requests.
Our next speaker will be Angela Hamilton.
Good evening, esteemed board members. My name is Angela Hamilton. I'm the parent of a 7th grade gifted student at West Star. I would like to take a moment to highlight the importance of not only academic performance in the MAG Gifted program, but also the social emotional needs of children met in this program. There's a wide range of social emotional needs within the gifted children. My son was lonely and isolated in the general education classroom prior to entering the MAG program. He had no friends. He was smart but sad. I have personally witnessed his tremendous growth in the area of social emotional development. My son recently reflected on this growth himself, sharing that the MAG program literally changed his life in the most positive of ways. He now recognizes and helps other students who are also lonely and struggling in the school setting. The MAG program cultivates a culture of generativity and generosity, which is equally important as academic achievement. I am truly grateful for this program. It has been truly life-changing. Thank you for your commitment to the continuation of the MAG program. Thank you for caring about our children now and in the future. And in follow-up to the last comment, I would just like to say, I am equally supportive of the needs of the special education students within our district. I believe also, if there has not been a roundtable, a forum to invite those parents forward, to hear the concerns, to share that, I do invite the board to consider that option. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Next on the agenda will be.
If I
oh,
could.
Sorry. Yep.
Administration, there was an accusation made. I'd like to see where we currently are with public records request. There's laws that say that we're supposed to be kicking those back out at a reasonable time, and if that's not happening, this board should know, since the board is the one who's ultimately responsible to the public. Thank you.
Will do.
Okay. Now we'll move to 7.1, approval of the consent agenda. And I got a couple that I would like to pull, but I'll take anybody else's first. Okay, hearing none, I'd like to pull 7.6, 7.8, and 7.9.
Mr. President, I make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of 7.6, 7.8, and 7.9.
Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with the exceptions of 7.6, 7.8, and 7.9. Call your name. Please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Members, I pulled 7.6. Mainly, I have no problem with being on the consent agenda, but I don't think it spells out real clearly where the funds are coming from. I think it's important for the public to know, so I would just ask staff if they could give us a little more details on it, just so that the public is aware of this and what we're replacing or adding to.
In our bond plan, we had buses, and that's where these 2 buses are coming from. These are stock buses that we were able to get a hold of pretty quickly because we are over capacity in our special ed buses.
And as I understand it, the lead time typically on a bus is about 2 years, so we're having to move a little quickly because these are available basically first come, first serve.
Correct.
Okay. All right, perfect. I just wanted to get that on record so the public is aware of that. Are we planning on buying any more buses out of the bond, or do we think that completes our bus purchase out of this current bond?
I will need to check and get back to you because all of that was done prior to me coming here. That's not an excuse, but I just need to check and see where our replacement schedule is.
Perfect, I appreciate it. Okay, members, with that, I'll take a motion for 7.6.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to approve 7.6.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 7.6. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Aye.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We will show that approved. 5 yes, 0 no. Next item I requested pulled was 7.8, approval of the new classroom furniture for Rainbow Valley. Again, just a little more transparency on this, and just want to kind of go over. It's a large number, and I know we got a large campus, but just a little more transparency for the public.
Yeah, the replacement for the, the Rainbow Valley replacement of furniture is on our district additional assistance replacement plan through the next 4 or 5 years. This plan was originally started in 2020 with a 10-year plan look ahead, and Astoria Mountain got theirs earlier this year. Rainbow Valley is slated for this year, and then we will move on to Freedom.
Okay, and that furniture that's there now is probably from the beginning, around there, 20 years old, probably at least.
Yeah, 23.
23, okay. It's probably due for replacement. Okay, again, I just pulled that. I'm fully supportive of it. I just want the public to understand sometimes when we're asking for money, I don't know very many people have furniture in their house 23 years old, and that's just with a small family you do? You have that many kids come through it? Well, now we can bring all, field trip to her house. We'll get her new stuff.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir.
Ms. Strickler, these are not deferred, right? These are the schedule. The furniture replacements is on schedule.
Correct. This is the schedule that was placed in 2020.
Okay. If there's no further questions, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I move that we approve item 7.8, the approval to buy new classroom furniture for Rainbow Valley for $201,767.40 as part of scheduled capital improvements.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve item 7.8, furniture purchase at Rainbow Valley. When I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks?
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre?
Yes.
Board Member Bixler?
Yes.
Board Member Kenyon?
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. Next one that I requested pulled is 7.9, the virtual occupational therapy. I had planned to pull this prior to Ms. Zimmerman's speech. Rest assured that we are looking at this, and I have all the concerns that Ms. Zimmerman has. And I look to her as a community leader when it comes to special ed. I recall a short time ago we talked about virtual OT, and it's kind of soup du jour. We don't know who we're getting. It could be different people each time. It wasn't conducive to our students. I would again agree with her that we need to aggressively start hunting for people to do these jobs. I do not like outsourcing things like this. I think we need to have ownership of it. I think it needs to be there. I do think temporarily we lost somebody recently, so we're trying to fill this gap, which is good. But I want to make sure we're looking. This is a short-term solution and not a long-term. And our human resources department and those responsible for hiring have got to become more aggressive and start recruiting these hard-to-find positions. We can no longer sit back and wait for the school year to start or wait for the big pie in the face to say we've got a problem. We need to be looking at this, and this should have already been out, to Ms. Zimmerman's point, 100% as much as the 7th, 8th grade MAG position. And I think it's equally important that we take care of all of our students, not one specific group. But again, I'm willing to approve this today because it gets some services in, hopefully very quickly, but I would like to hear a plan from staff of how we're going to start going after these positions and filling them a lot more aggressively. If we need to look at a recruiter for the district, so be it. And I don't want to get too far off the topic, but I did want to pull this here and have that discussion to say we need to look at this as a temporary solution and by no means a permanent.
I'd just like to point out that the board, we actually didn't allow, the administration came to us for help in special ed with a coordinator position, if I remember correctly. I forget exactly what the title was, and the board said no. So now here we are again addressing special ed needs. Just something to think about.
My understanding is that we came back and approved that position, but talking about this item, my understanding is there's 5 positions in this item, right? 2 of which would be the virtual. The other 3 would be in person. Is that correct? Okay.
Okay, you want to come up to the mic?
So yes, we did try to get people on board. In fact, I did have 3, it was 2 speech and an OT that was very interested in our district. However, they could not leave their districts and take a $10,000 pay cut. So they chose not to come to our district in April. So, I mean, when they have 15 years, they come in and they don't get what they're getting at their district for 15 years. So I have interviewed every person that has come to, has applied. And I did get some speech folks, so I do have them in the preschool. However, we have to have OT and speech. We have to. So the online is not giving services online. It is doing the mandated paperwork and the IEPs that a speech assistant or an occupational assistant cannot do. So that person's on the ground. Is it cost effective? Absolutely not. However, we have no other options. I've talked to other districts, asked them what they were doing. They're doing the same thing. Unfortunately, there are certain districts out there that do pay very, very well, and people leave to go there. The related service providers that we did lose, one of them was contract. So I'm not going to say to a contract person, hey, you got a job next year, because I want to hire my own. And the other one went out of state. And the other one went to another district because they were going to pay her a lot more. So I'm right with you. I think we should have our own, but we do have to have someone.
I understand that, and I appreciate that, but I've heard one too many times from teachers, they're like public safety, and I agree. When you call 911, the fire department, the police department never says, sorry, we didn't have anybody. We called a contractor from California or wherever, virtual. We have to start treating it this way. And if we're short money, I want to know that long before today. And we as a district must start looking at the pay and figuring that out and bring it to the board. And that's every single person's job in this district. If the pay is not there, let's figure it out. Because now we're paying money. You say it's not cost effective and the service is bad. To me, that's 3 strikes. Might as well just call it a whole inning, strikeouts, all 3 batters out. That's got to change. So I would implore the staff also to rapidly look at a survey study and
I believe
figure
it's
out.
on the agenda.
Yeah.
Is there a study for related services?
And we need to monitor that at all times, so we're not surprised with this when it happens. This is not, if we're posting a position and the pay is not there, we've essentially wasted our staff's time and those employees coming here when we know that nobody's gonna take a $10,000 pay cut. So to even invite those people in for an interview is an embarrassment. It's the bottom line. Anybody that was a part of that, I'm sorry, that's completely wrong. And if we know we're that far off, either we don't know we're that far off and that's a problem, or we're that far off and it's still a problem. But we should not be wasting people's time, and it's embarrassing. So I'm gonna vote to approve it tonight to get some help. But in comments, I will be asking for a board-appointed gifted committee so we can take oversight, because it's clearly not being done. With that, any other questions, or I'll take a motion.
Just to clarify,
Gifted.
board-appointed gifted committee?
Talk about that in future topics.
Oh, okay.
But
Mr. President, I move that we approve to contract for an occupational therapist virtually and a certified occupational therapist assistant and a speech language pathologist assistant from Solient Health.
Second?
you got it. Have a second?
I second it.
Mr. Aguirre?
I
Parks?
did.
Sorry, okay.
Yep.
Didn't hear. All right, have a motion and a second to approve 7.9. With that, I will call for your vote. Board Member Parks,
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre,
Yes.
Board Member Bixler,
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
I'm also, and I will show that proof 5 yes, 0 no. Next on the agenda is general business, possible action to convene to executive session pursuant to ARS 38431.03A3.
I had a question on this one. The Title IX compliance coordinator, who is it? And will the compliance coordinator be joining us at executive session? Yes? Okay, thank you.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to convene executive session pursuant to ARS 38-43103. Discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorneys or attorneys of the public body regarding Title IX report and process.
I have a second.
I'll second.
Okay, I have a motion, a second to adjourn to executive session. I call your name, please specify your vote. Board Member Parks,
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre,
Yes.
Board Member Bixler,
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show into executive session at 7:16 PM with a 5 yes, 0 no vote. we'll show the time is 8:27 PM. We're reconvening back into public session. Our next item on the agenda is 9.1, board comments or agenda topics. Okay, the only thing I would like is a follow-up to Ms. Zimmerman's point. I think if we are not addressing a special ed committee, we do need to look at that. I'd like to agendize that for a future meeting to discuss and get that worked out. And then also, we heard again tonight, our salary surveys are maybe off. And if we're losing people, we need to have a better understanding of that. So I'd ask for staff to prepare something for that as well. Those would be mine. Hearing no further, we'll move to 10.1, upcoming board meetings. September 11th meeting has been canceled due to Patriots Day. Dr. Monroe, I believe we may have a possible special meeting for hiring sometime this week, so we just ask for everybody to be on standby. We'll give you as much notice as possible. We have a meeting on September 25th, October 9th, and October 30th. Our next item on the agenda.
Excuse me, Mr. Todd,
Yes.
President Todd. I will be out of town the 25th. I'll probably have to be remote on that.
On September 25th?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, next will be item 11.1, adjournment of the meeting.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Ken. Do it. Do it, Chris. Do it. Do it.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn this meeting, this governing board meeting.
Second.
Have a motion and an overly enthusiastic second. When I call your name, unless you want discussion, when I call your name, please call your vote. Board Member Parks.
Yes.
Board Member Aguirre.
Yes.
Board Member Bixler.
Aye.
Board Member Kenyon.
Aye.
I'm also an aye. We'll show that approved 5 yes, 0 no. The meeting is adjourned.